What's up guys, I'm Zach and welcome back to Workshop Edits. In today's project, I'm going to take you through step by step how I installed 2 exhaust turbines on my roof. Now there is going to be a lot of information in this project, so if you want to just skip ahead to the build part, I'm going to go ahead and add chapters to this video. But if you want to learn about why you should install this on your roof if you don't already have it, all of the materials that I used for the project, all of the tools that I used, and I'll just run through some frequently asked questions that I came across in doing my own research, you can go ahead and stick around. First, let's just go ahead and talk about why I'm actually installing one of these. So my house was built in 1955, and currently it doesn't have any way to properly exhaust heat that builds up in the attic. If you were to look around at all of the houses in my neighborhood, most of the roofs that are in my direct line of sight when I'm on top of my house don't actually have proper exhaust on their roof. So every house was built in roughly the mid-50s. I don't know if that was just a code thing back then, or it was something that you didn't have to have on your house back then, but these vents are super important to help maintain the health of your attic space as well as your overall roof on top of your house. So if you've ever been up in your attic during the hot part of the summer, you might notice that while it's, let's just say 90 degrees outside, it might be 125 degrees up in your attic. And that is because heat can be pulled through soffit vents that are on the side of your house or underneath the roofing eaves of your house. Heat is going to then rise, and if there's nowhere for that heat to get exhausted to, it's just going to build up throughout the day. It can build up moisture, which over time could damage the rafters within your attic, and it's going to overall damage or shorten the lifespan of your actual roof. It's also going to just cause your HVAC system to work harder because all of that heat trapped is just going to keep your house warm throughout the day. So I've wanted to add these for a long time. Something about drilling holes in my roof is probably one of the scariest things you can do as a homeowner and somebody who's not a roofing expert. We have solar energy, so the electrical part of running our AC more than we need to doesn't necessarily worry me, but I want to extend the life of my roof, which is about 10 years old now, and I don't want to overwork my AC system because repairing those can be expensive. So after over 4 years of being in this house and hearing my AC system run too much and doing tons of my own research on the internet through videos and articles and just general knowledge that's out there about this process, I think I'm finally ready to do this. All right, so the next thing I want to do is just go through all of the tools that I'm going to be using for this project. And what I did was just grab a spare bin that I had and put them on there. That way I could carry them all up to the roof at once. It was really efficient. All right, let's start with the basics. You're always going to want ear protection when you're using power tools. Safety glasses. So there's all my safety protection that I'm going to need. Power tool wise, since we're going to be cutting a hole in the roof, I brought up my jigsaw, which I'm going to try to use first. I'm going to use a drill to drill the hole in it. And I also brought up my Sawzall just in case the jigsaw, for whatever reason, isn't cutting it. Other very basic things that I brought up. Razor blade knife. I figure I might need to cut back some of the shingles here, so always good to have. Tape measure, because we're going to have to measure out exactly where these holes need to go in the roof. Hammer and a pry bar. Pry bar is going to be important in case you need to sort of lift up the shingles once you insert the turbine underneath them. That's going to help just create a really nice placement for it so that when you do waterproof it, your roof is going to be nice and good to go and the turbine's going to work efficiently. And then eventually we're going to need a caulking gun because what we're going to do is once we install the turbine, we're going to apply some roofing sealant. That way underneath and inside the turbine is fully waterproof, and all of the nails and screws that we use are also waterproof, making your roof nice and secure once these are installed. And last, maybe most importantly, kneeling on a roof is super uncomfortable. So I have these foam mats that I'm just going to use to put my knees on. You can use a towel or you can wear knee pads. This seemed like the best method to use, and it doesn't slip when I put it down. So going to make your life a lot easier because you're going to be squatting down and putting your knees on whatever type of roof you have. All right, let's go through the materials for the project real quickly. So obviously the main thing you're going to need is a turbine. I am using a Whirlybird 12-inch turbine. These are rated to vent 771 square feet of attic space. My house is about 1,500 square feet, so having 2 of these installed is going to be perfect on each side of the roof near the soffits to be able to vent it, and I'm just going to install them based on where the directions tell me to. We'll get into that more later. These come in a bunch of colors. I got black ones just to sort of go with the aesthetic of my house. You can get them in like natural aluminum colors or more like tan and nature colors. The price ranges from $50 to $100 based on the model you get, where you get it from, and the size of it. I got this from Home Depot. Seems like it's in great shape. It should come with everything I need besides roofing nails to install it. So I also brought up a bunch of roofing nails that I already had on hand from doing previous roofing work on my house way back when. And then the last most important thing you're probably gonna need to go with this is some sort of roof or flashing sealant. I got this polyurethane sealant from Loctite from Home Depot. It was like $7. I believe it is black in color, so it's gonna match nicely with the black turbine that I got. It's UV resistant, it's water resistant, and it's flexible and durable. And it's rated to work around chimneys, roof edgings, shingles, and covering roof nails. So it should be perfect. And again, I'll put links to all of the products and tools that I use in the description in case you are looking to do this yourself. All right, so the last thing that I wanna do is run through a couple of frequently asked questions. These were things that I saw popping up on message boards or like on Home Depot underneath the products, or just general things that were questions that came up for me as I was watching videos and doing my own research. So if I don't answer your question here, feel free to leave a comment in the description. What I can do is take any additional comments and leave them as questions and then a pinned answer, and that way it can be sort of like a hub for people who are looking to kind of answer questions outside of what I do. So real quick, let's just rattle these off. Where'd you get these from? Home Depot. You can get these from pretty much any big box store. Lowe's, Menards, you can get them on Amazon. They range in price from $55 to $100. That is dependent upon the brand, the color, and the size that you are going to get. How many do I need for my roof? That depends on the size of your house. So again, the 12-inch models can vent about 770 square feet of attic space. So what you need to do is figure out how much attic space you have roughly and divide that by the total square footage that these can cover, and then that's going to tell you how many you need. So if you had a 10,000 square foot attic and you wanted to purchase the 14-inch models, which cover a little over 1,000 square feet per things, you would do 10,000 square feet divided by roughly 1,000, and you would know that you would need 10 of these positioned accurately around your roof to vent that. My house is about 1,500 square feet. The 12-inch ones cover 770 square feet, so I know that I need 2 of these positioned properly near the soffits to vent the heat from my house somewhat efficiently. Do these work on my particular pitch of roof? So as far as I understand, these are rated all the way up to a 12-12 pitch roof. My roof is nowhere near that. I don't know that many houses besides A-frame cabins that have a roof that's more sloped than that, so these pretty much should work universally on any slope of roof. Will this work on my fill-in-the-blank type of roof? That I can't answer. I'm not a roofing expert, and I do not know what types of roofs besides my specific roof, which is a composite shingle roof, that these would work on. I'm sure they work on a ton of different types, but that's something that you're gonna have to do your own research on. What happens if they break? Whirlybird has a lifetime warranty. They will replace it. However, I'm pretty sure just buying a new one is gonna be more efficient in 10 years. Do they work without wind? No. However, they only require 5 miles per hour of wind, which is basically a breeze anywhere in the world. So what will happen is cold air from the outside will be pulled in through the soffits. A little bit of breeze will start spinning the turbine, and if I look around and I see other turbines in my neighborhood, they are very slowly spinning right now, and there's barely a breeze right now, and it's about 70 degrees. Those will spin faster the more the heat comes in, and they're already spinning, so you really shouldn't have any issues. These do not need to be hooked up to any sort of electrical thing. They just work with nature, which is awesome. Do they let in rain, snow, or critters? No, these protect against all of that if they are working properly, so you do not have to worry about that. I think that's it. If I didn't answer any of your questions that you might have after seeing this video, just leave a comment and I'll be happy to try to resolve those and sort of create a community around the information to install these. So now that all of that is done, let's go ahead and get started with the installation. So the way that you're supposed to install these is based on the number of turbines that you're going to use. So I'm using 2, and what it tells you to do is divide the total length of your roof into 4 increments, so quarter increments. Depending on that length, if you're using 2 of them, you'll then install each one a quarter length of your roof inwards near the soffit. So I need to figure out how long my roof is, and then that's going to determine the overall placement of where I put these things. So let's do that. All right, so the roof length overall is 384 inches. I do have quite a bit of overhang on each side, so I just want to measure that quickly too. Subtract both of those lengths, and then I can divide by 4 and figure out how far inwards I'm going to place these. So there's 6 inches on each side, so that's 384 minus a foot, which is going to be 372 divided by 12. It's not a leap year. And it's July, so that's going to be 31 feet, which means if I divide by 4, inwards from each side, I'm gonna have to go in 7 feet, 9 inches. I don't obviously want to interfere with any of the solar stuff here, but I don't think it's gonna be an issue. I also got out the turbine from the box because what I want to do, they don't give you directions on how far down, just how far in to help properly ventilate. So I want to just sort of get it here in place, even though, you know, eventually it's going to be turned up, and just kind of put it here and see how it kind of works with the overall eave of my house, or not eave, the apex of my roof, because I don't want these super visible from the street, but it's okay if they're popping up. If I look around and I do see them, I see some of them popping up. So it's gonna sit basically right here. So the center, that's about 28 inches down. I think we could probably go all the way to 32 inches down, and that should be a good position for these. That way I just don't get in the way of any of the solar here. And over there, actually, on the other side of my house, it's not going to be an issue because there's no solar there. All right, so I am pretty much ready to get going to drill holes through my roof. Now, again, this is probably the most nerve-wracking part of installing anything on your roof as a DIY homeowner. I'm a little bit nervous about starting a pilot hole where I measured and drilling directly into the rafters, because what you want to do is be in between those so that obviously there's the most open hole underneath it so that all the heat can get out. So what I'm gonna do, instead of just going rogue and drilling a hole at each side where I think they're gonna go, I'm actually gonna jump up into my attic and I'm gonna measure from the interior underside of my attic the same dimensions, and I'm gonna go up through it. That way I can accurately see the rafters underneath it, and that way I know exactly where I drill a hole upwards is gonna be where it should go. Instead of drilling a hole up, I'm actually just gonna put a screw up through the roof, and that way I know that that's my center. Then I can measure my circle around that center. It's all gonna make sense, but let's go ahead and go into my attic, which I hate going into, but luckily it's the morning, it's early, it shouldn't be too hot, but it's kind of like an awful place, so I'll see you there. All right, I'm up here in my attic. It's terrible up here, so I'm just gonna make this quick. So here are my soffit vents. Here is the top of my roof. What I'm gonna do is measure 7 feet 9 inches in, 32 inches down. I'm gonna do that on both sides, and then I'm going to shoot a screw up in the middle of these rafters so that I avoid hitting these pieces, and that way there's a nice clean hole for me to drill out on top of the roof once I get out there. It's gonna be way too difficult to film that, and it's just not gonna be safe, I think. So I'm gonna put the mask back on because it's dusty. Gonna measure out, find that hole, and I'll see you on the other side of my roof. Hey guys, it's Zach. I am sorry to tell you that my mic died right after this and I failed to notice, so I'm going to just voice over everything I do from here on out. After drilling the screw in the center point up through the roof, the next step was to use the screws as a center point and measure out a few marks 6 inches outside of it. Then I could place my base on the turbine and mark the exact circle that I needed to cut out. Then the moment of truth, drilling the pilot hole in my perfectly good roof. Then a good blade on the jigsaw made for quick work on actually cutting out that full hole. And a little tip, the screw you initially drilled in at the center of the hole can actually serve as a way to grab the circle that you cut out so it doesn't fall into your attic. After cutting out that circle, I used the template provided to just find the actual pitch of my roof. It was today that I learned that I had a 612 roof. Just make sure you have a straight edge on hand, as I hadn't done so and I had to run back down and grab one. Once you determine the pitch of the roof, you can find the corresponding marking on the turbine cylinder and then attach that through that hole to the base. So I found the marking that was labeled 6 and used the 3 machine screws to secure it from those 3 holes that were pre-drilled on the base. Super easy once you do all of the measurements. As I said before, a pry bar is exactly what you need to go back to the hole that you just drilled and pry up the shingles. You're not removing them, you're just lifting them up off the tar so that you can slide the vent base underneath. That way, after waterproofing, the water will run right over the base and keep your attic dry. It's also a good idea to do a dry fit at this point before fully committing to the install. This is probably the most important step when you're installing waterproofing. So I popped open that roof sealant that I showed you before and laid a thick bead around the underside of the turbine base. That way, when pressed down, it would form a watertight fit around that newly opened hole in my roof. I then used about 8 roofing nails in the cornice to secure it in place. There's no specific directions around this, I just did what I thought actually secured this properly. After fully securing, the next step was to twist the cylinder so that it was perfectly level with the ground, no longer perpendicular with the roof. So the system comes with a locking pin and screw that requires you to basically suppress all of your emotions as you try to fit in that small circle and screw it in. Why anyone still uses flathead screws is beyond me. Once the nails were in and the turbine was secured, I went back and did the responsible thing the directions told me to do and sealed everything. That included all of the nail heads, the inside base to cylinder joint, and the rotating joint. And this thing was very waterproof by the end of the project. The last step was probably the most obvious, but it was just attaching the turbine. It should slip right on top, and then you can secure it to the outside of the cylinder with 3 machine screws and the tabs that they provide. And once you put it on, it should spin rather freely, basically without you touching it. All right, so that is gonna wrap it up for this video. I'm really sorry about those audio issues halfway through the video. I hope they didn't mess things up too much for you when trying to watch. I am so excited to finally have these installed. Like I said, this has been on my list for over 4 years, just knowing how much value it adds, but just finding the confidence and doing the right research to actually make it happen. Very excited that they're installed and they seem to be working great. If you learned something from this video, if you are a professional roofer who is watching it, if you are a novice who has some questions about it, please feel free to leave a comment. I'd be happy to answer them and also pin any extra questions I get from the video in case there are other people out there who also have the same ones. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, would love it if you would subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you guys next time on whatever it is that I'm working on. Bye.